Good morning, students. Today we are going to read the lesson Everything for the Best. It is said that every cloud has a silver lining. When some misfortune befalls you, do you feel disheartened? There may be something good hidden in it, and the seemingly bad luck may become a blessing in disguise. So, before we begin with the lesson, let us see new words. Reconcile, deal with two opposite ideas. Ennoble, make noble. Optimistic, hopeful, believing that good thing will happen. Adversity, difficult or unpleasant situation. Trait, a distinguishing feature in character. Expedition, an organized journey for a particular purpose. Pursued, followed. Solitary, lonely. Piercing, sharp. Aghast, filled with horror and surprise. Enraged, made angry. Booty, valuable things. Sonorous, having a loud or deep sound. Blemishes, defects or flaws. Wrath, angry. Hobbled, walk lamely. Now, let us read and understand the story. In ancient times, there was a rich and powerful king who ruled over a vast kingdom. Pratap Singh was his advisor as well as close friend. Caravan loads brought daily wealth into his capital, and his kingdom was well administered by his ministers under the guidance of Pratap Singh. The only irritation the king sometimes suffered was to see the ills of famine, epidemic and wars, which men seemed unable to avoid. He could not reconcile with Pratap Singh's oft-repeated belief that everything is for the best. When challenged, the minister would reply that such burdens ennobles man's nature and teach him wisdom, so bringing mankind slowly towards perfection. The man was optimistic to the core, and no hardships in life had any discouraging effect on him because he would always look at the positive side of the worst adversities. He would think of the benefits that could be derived from adversities. In fact, this particular trait was so prominent in him that others around him were very often got tired of his oft-repeated belief that whatever happens, happens for the best. One day, the king and Pratap Singh went out riding on a hunting expedition to a dense forest. They pursued a deer in the forest and were soon lost deep in the jungle. Feeling thirsty and hungry, they began to look for water. At length, they discovered a solitary wood apple. When the king tried to cut the apple, as luck would have it, the sword slipped and he cut his finger. The king let out a piercing cry of pain. He was aghast when he saw the bleeding finger. The minister, who came running, asked the king, "What is the matter?" The king pointed to his severed finger, the sword that lay on the ground. Picking up the sword, the advisor, in his characteristic way, was about to say his favorite statement. So, everything is for the best, isn't it? Asked the king ironically. The advisor was as calm as ever. With due respect, he answered, "Yes, your majesty. It may be a blessing in disguise. Take it from me. Something good is going to come out of this. God has willed it this way, so we should not complain." The king couldn't believe what his advisor had said. He couldn't comprehend how the loss of his finger could be a blessing. The disgruntled king was sure his courtier was making fun of him. In his fury, the king ordered Pratap Singh out of his sight. Seeing that he had indeed enraged the king, Pratap Singh had no choice but leave the king alone. In his hunger and pain, the king fell into an uneasy sleep. As he lay at the foot of a tree, he was discovered by the tribesmen of the jungle, who in last days of their great annual festival were seeking a sacrificial victim for the tiger goddesses. They were delighted to find such a handsome victim. They seized the king, bound his hands and feet, and carried him away. The warriors were in their colorful costume with plumes and holding the spears, upright in reverence to their royal prisoner. They marched to their chief's palace. The tribal soldiers presented their booty to their chief, who judged that the prisoner was indeed a royal blood. He was pleased with his minious prize catch. He decided that blue blood would be an excellent offering to the supreme deity. Therefore, he sent for the tribal priest, an old man who came in soon afterwards. As was the custom, the tribal priest had to approve of all offerings to the deity. It was his duty to see that each offering was perfect in all respect. Seeing that a king was going to be the object of sacrifice on that day, the priest did not inspect the prisoner from head to toe. Instead, he ordered that the process be started without delay. They took the king to their altar. After some wild dancing, the final sacrificial preparation began with the smearing of red and yellow powder over the victim's forehead, feet, and hands. However, it was during the anointing of the body that the old priest noticed that something was amiss. One of the finger of the king's left hand was missing. He shook his head and said in his sonorous voice, "I am sorry, your royal highness, we cannot proceed with this sacrifice. The deity will accept only those who are whole-bodied. The body should not have any blemishes. The prisoner's body is imperfect and it is not fit for offering to the deity." The tribesmen fled in horror, for they had nearly presented an imperfect sacrifice and feared the wrath of the goddess. As the king hobbled away as fast as his legs could carry him, he realized that the loss of his finger had indeed been for the best. But what of not having his minister's company at the time of danger? Was that for the best? Yes, said Pratap Singh later. For if he had known of the king's pearl, he would have come to the king's aid and being overcome by the numerous tribesmen, thus serving as a substitute victim. So, everything was for the best after all. So, this is a very well-known story, students, where the minister Pratap Singh, he keeps on saying everything happens for the best. One day they go for hunting and the king cuts his finger. Pratap Singh says that it is for the best, it is blessing in disguise, something good is going to happen. The king is not happy, he orders him to go away. So Pratap Singh leaves the king in the jungle. Later on, he is caught by the tribes and they want to kill him, but seeing his finger cut, they did not sacrifice him. So the king understands that yes, whatever happens, happens for the good. I would request you to read this lesson thoroughly, and you all have understood the topic. Thank you, students.